The following is an Operation Podcast production.
It's vegetable oil, therefore it can't be bad for me, right?
And the advertising shows like a beautiful cornfield with the sun shining on it. Everything looks so clean and beautiful and a place you want to be. So they totally take advantage of that to sell it to customers. And that just helps create the image of these oils have to be healthy, build up in our body fat, and they change the chemistry of our body fat. So even if you don't eat any starting tomorrow, your body fat is still going to cause inflammation when your cells try to burn it. You're not going to reverse your metabolic disease starting tomorrow. That takes time. The question is never asked. What are these things doing to us? How much am I eating? Doctors learn nothing. I learned nothing about them. I'm a family medicine doctor and I didn't learn anything about this stuff. The truth has been hidden. Hi, I'm Dr. Cate Shanahan, author of Dark Calories. Welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
Something that really kind of caught my attention right out of the gate when looking at dark calories was a pretty overwhelming statistic or a fact. And that's that 1/3 of Americans' caloric intake comes from vegetable oils. But most people don't even know what vegetable oil is, let alone what it does to our bodies. So my question for you is, why do you think that vegetable oil has been left out of the conversation around diet for so long?
Yeah, that's a great starting question because really the answer is it's twofold, I guess. Doctors don't learn about them. And that's a big part of why it's been left out of the conversation. Doctors don't know what they are themselves, and they don't know anything about their potential health effects. So that's like the one reason, but there's a whole nother layer to this. And the other layer is that we're sort of told that they're healthy, and that is not true. And so the truth about these oils has been suppressed. And as a result, just the whole conversation about these oils gets suppressed because there's all these people out there who had been saying for years that vegetable oils are the healthy kind of oil. But I have to ask you as a consumer, like, do you remember hearing that? And do you hear it anymore?
Interesting question. Honestly, I have to say, I don't know if I recall hearing, oh, this is healthy for you, but absolutely, I had no ambiguity around looking at vegetable oils and thinking anything other than it's vegetable oil, therefore it can't be bad for me, right?
Exactly. And so, yeah, that's another reason that, just the happy branding that they take advantage of this stuff. It does come from vegetables, but it doesn't come like from, tomatoes and broccoli. It comes from cottonseed, which isn't even.
Since when is cotton a vegetable?
Right. Like technically it's plant material. So technically you could say vegetable, but it's a happy coincidence that is the original industry term. Happy for those people who like to promote it, not happy for human health. Let's be clear on that. Yeah. So back in the day when the term was vegetable oil was first coined, it was truly to differentiate it from the other dominant oils on the market, which were animal oils. Like the biggest oil out there back in the 1800s when the term first was originated was whale oil. So an animal.
Whale oil.
Yeah, whale oil. That was being used for lamps. It was being used for engines. It was wasn't being used for food, although it would have been way healthier than vegetable oil. So when chemists first learned how to extract oil from cotton seeds and soy, those were the two main ones at the time. They just had to create a new term, and they called it, well, it's vegetable oil. It's not that animal or whale oil that it used to be. And so that's kind of the origin of the term. And then the manufacturers just took advantage of that to pump up the language there. And then they'll show like pictures of Mazola actually have like pictures of tomatoes and other green vegetables on there. And the advertising shows like a beautiful cornfield with the sun shining on it. Everything looks so clean and beautiful and place you want to be. So they totally take advantage of that to sell it to customers. And that just helps create the image of these oils have to be healthy. And unless you are, unless you're inclined to think that, which until very recently, nobody was, the question is never asked. What are these things doing to us? How much am I eating? And like I say, doctors learn nothing. I learned nothing about them. And even worse, dietitians and nutritionists learn that their chemical content, the kinds of fatty acids in them, makes them healthy. And that is not true, obviously, or I wouldn't have written the book. The truth has been hidden and concealed in the dark.
So then what do vegetable oils do that's so bad for our health?
In the simplest terms, vegetable oils steal our energy. They steal our cellular energy and promote inflammation at the cellular level because of their chemistry. And it's not, this answer, that's short answer that I just gave you, it took me many, many years to figure that out, because this information was not out there when I first started looking into what these oils were and the chemistry and how they could affect our bodies. So I'm a family medicine doctor, and I didn't learn anything about this stuff. And it wasn't until like I got sick and had to figure out how to get my own self healthy and figure out what was the root cause of my problems and how to heal myself, that I started diving into the chemistry of vegetable oils, because I hadn't even learned myself that they existed. But
why did you go there? Why did your sickness kind of push you towards investigating vegetable oil, seed oil as a possible contribution to what you were going through?
Story starts with my husband, who had been telling me that I had a horrible diet. I ate like an army of ants because I ate that much sugar, and that I probably wasn't the best diet. So he gave me a book, and it was called Spontaneous Healing by a health guru of the 90s named Andrew Weil. And in that book, there was a term I did not learn in medical school, but it seemed really important. It was essential fatty acids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are different than saturated fats, which I had learned that clog our arteries. So the book said these things were good for you. They were essential. So I was like, wow, that's chemistry. And before I went to medical school, I was a chemist, a biochemist. I was at Cornell. I literally wanted to learn how to engineer bacteria that could digest plastic. Because I saw that as garbage as piling up as a problem, and I wanted to do something about it. But I left because we were so far from that at that point in time with genetic engineering. It was the 90s. And so I wanted to go to medical school, and I thought really, truly I would get to the root cause of stuff. But so ironically, when I was sick, that was when I finally started to look at what, like the two halves of my life have fused, right? The biochemist and the problem solver of the world's problems, and then the doctor who was trying to get to the root causes. Well, they all came together because as soon as I looked at the molecular structure of essential fatty acids, I saw a potential solution. I saw a potential problem too, which means if we stop eating them, they're a solution. And it's their chemistry. Their chemistry says that because they're polyunsaturated, they will react with oxygen in a way that will make energy impossible for our cells to control. And we get these things developing in our cells called free radicals. They promote inflammation. They also make it impossible for our cells to generate energy. So vegetable oils also reduce our cells' ability to generate energy. And it totally changes how our metabolism works. And it took me quite a number of years to figure all of that out. And, I started talking about the fact that the inflammation part of it way back in 2006. I started working with the Lakers because the Los Angeles Lakers wanted to upgrade their diets. And I knew that athletes needed to faster recovery, and a new inflammation would stand in the way of that. So my biggest job was helping them avoid vegetable oils. How I got into it was just understanding, like recognizing the chemistry of it and wondering if, goodness gracious, based on the chemical principles, fundamental chemical principles, it looks like everything I learned about fat might have been wrong, because saturated fat doesn't react this way with oxygen and would therefore protect us against inflammation and be a much better cellular fuel to give us energy.
Was the chemistry so apparent to you that this, in any dose, any frequency, any variety, is going to cause these problems like you were just describing, of blocking energy, promoting inflammation, free radicals? Or is it just one of those things, it over time gums up the engine, so to speak, and so it's just, hey, not ideal, but sparingly is better? Or is it just any dose that we see this inherent energy dilemma?
I love that question, because the answer is neither one. It's not, the dose makes the poison, right? So if you have a teeny tiny bit, like we used to at the turn of the 19th century, we had just a teeny tiny bit. These oils were not a problem. They just weren't around. Like hardly anybody was eating them. And as a nation, like our average caloric intake was probably less than 10 calories per day compared to where we are now, where it's between 300 and 600 calories per day. So huge difference. So the dose makes the poison, right? So it's not just a little tiny bit. A little tiny bit won't kill you. Unfortunately, these days, we're way past a little tiny bit, okay? And then here's something else. Here's how it's not that they just gradually wear things down and we should just do our best to avoid them. And maybe that's not what you were saying. But they are currently the worst thing in the food supply. And the amounts that we are getting now in just like an average kind of a food immediately, in many cases, cause symptoms. Like if you have French fries, most people who have French fries, they often notice that if they go out to eat, they start to feel worse than if they were eating at home, right? If you have a double serving of French fries and a bunch of other junk food, you get bloated. You just don't feel so great the next day. That's because of the immediate effect. So there's immediate effects in the dosages that have immediate toxicity.
Yes, we all could probably be making better, more frequent, more often choices in relation to our own needs, but also our own wants and personal health goals. So I guess to kind of rephrase, it's really, is the poison in any dose?
This is a lot to get. It's a unique kind of a poison, right? It's a lot to get your head wrapped around. But the answer is definitely not like a little bit in something means you definitely need to avoid it. And in fact, in the last part, the practical part of my book, which is the last third of Dark Calories, I tell you how to tell the difference between a product that has, so little you really don't need to worry about it. So I teach you how to read the label and the nutrition label and the ingredients list to make that discrimination. Because there are lots of products out there that have it in stuff, for example, like a spice mix, like a spice blend, that adds 1% by weight of vegetable oil just as some kind of a flow agent, so the spice doesn't cake up so much in the industrial manufacturing process. And it's like, spices are one of the smallest amount by volume in your food. So and it's just 1% of that. So that's not enough to worry about. But here's the thing. Here's the reason people are in trouble and they really need to avoid certain things, right? Maybe the better way to answer this is you need to learn what you've been eating, okay? Because if you hadn't heard about these things, guarantee you've been eating them and they have already affected your health, because they have toxic effects and they build up in your bodily tissues. They build up in your body fat. And that has changed your metabolism if you've been eating them.
How so?
It makes your metabolism less able to use your body fat. So you can build body fat just fine, but your cells reject it as a fuel. So this is why people who aren't kind of like on a razor's edge of discipline with exercise and diet and pretty good at counting macros and stuff, gradually, inexorably gain weight. That's why it's so common. It's not age, it's not genetics, it's not willpower, it's your metabolism. And what's happening is it changes your tastes too, so that you crave carbohydrates and sugar. You crave an alternative fuel to fat, right? Fat, body fat, supposed to be our main fuel for our body cells between meals, obviously. A few hours after a meal, depending what you ate and how active you are, you start to burn a little bit of body fat. But when your body fat causes inflammation and steals your cellular ability to produce energy, your cells do not like it anymore. And so they seek out an alternative fuel. And that alternative is sugar, because there's always a little bit of sugar in our bloodstream, a little bit, not enough. And so what happens is when there's a little bit, but not enough of a fuel, your blood sugar drops. And how do you feel? Hangry is so common now. People don't even realize it's not normal. It is not normal. It wasn't a thing when I was a kid growing up. We didn't have snack breaks during school. We didn't come home and need snacks. We came home and went outside and played.
So you're saying is it really, when we get to that level of hangry, when we get really far in between meals or even snacks, and the blood sugar drops, so much so that it influences our mood and even behavior, you're saying that's really more due to the infiltration of our fat cells and our metabolism of seed oils than just a dip in blood sugar?
That's right. We wouldn't have that dip in blood sugar. Our body regulates blood sugar, and we don't need very much when our metabolism is healthy and we can burn that body fat. But our body was never designed to run primarily on sugar between meals. Vegetable oils have retooled our metabolism so that our cells are sugar addicts. And when your cells are sugar addicts, you become a sugar addict or a carbohydrate addict or a food addict, you see. So this is why we have the obesity epidemic. It has to do with how these oils affect our metabolism. And nobody is talking about this because it's not something that is taught in school. And it is fundamentally important to understanding how to be healthy and what is going on in the world today, where we have metabolic disease being the biggest problem we are facing today as a country and frankly as a species. And medical science is just drugging it, right? Handing out Ozempic or other drugs for metabolic disease, handing out blood pressure pills, handing out all kinds of blood thinners to try to prevent the heart attacks that are caused by blood clots, handing out drugs for mental health disorders, because just like you said, when your blood sugar is falling, your brain is not getting enough energy, and your brain is not going to function well when it's not getting enough energy. So it makes us hangry, and it causes hypoglycemia symptoms, which include brain fog and anxiety, difficulty coping. Just it totally changes how we think. It changes who we are. And I didn't even realize this had happened to me. Like, I didn't realize that my personality kind of changed for the better. I mean, I was so tired at the end of a work day, I literally couldn't talk with my husband about how was my day with work. Like, the question was so hard to process. What happened?
Oh,
I forgot.
no.
I
Jeez.
forgot.
Yeah.
Like,
How many people
remember.
have been there? I mean, when you said the word brain fog, it immediately made me perk up, because I've been there, thankfully not so much these days. I mean, I'm no stranger to it. It's not completely out of my life, but luckily, due to awareness around nutrition, energy levels, sleep, hydration, general things, fundamental habits that I try to instill and bring people on to talk about in the show, we can catch ourselves a little bit more and really then take inventory of, when's the last time I had a glass of water? Do I need some electrolytes? How was my sleep? Have I exercised today or the last 24 or 48 hours? When's the last time I stepped outside and got some sunlight? But now you're really kind of adding into this Rolodex of questions to run through to check energy levels and to check what our body needs. And what we ultimately want is, have I had seed oils? And so I kind of have a two-part question for you next is, one, what, other than the obvious, which maybe we should get some obvious things out of the way, obvious names, obvious titles on ingredients, on common foods that just flat out, this is a red flag. But, maybe part two would be, what are some sneaky things? You brought up spices, and I never would have thought to look for vegetable oil, seed oils, and spices. What are some other maybe sneaky areas where they might be hiding? And then kind of a follow-up question to that is, once we become aware of all of the areas that they might be in our foods, is it realistic for us to think that we could get rid of seed oils in our diet completely?
Right. Okay. So let me answer that last one first, because it's top of mind. We can get rid of them to the extent that we need, right? Which is, not 100% completely. We don't need to worry about little tiny pieces, but we absolutely can. I've done it. Get rid of them to the extent that we need. It's not easy. And I walk you through exactly how to do it. And it starts with the answer to your first question, which is, what are they? What constitutes a seed oil? There's 8 of them. I'm going to list them off right now. There's 8 of them that I have defined, right? Other people may have different, there's actually no classical definition anywhere of what constitutes a harmful seed oil, right? So the term was vegetable oil. Since they come from seeds mostly and not actual vegetables, it's botanically more accurate to call them seed oils. But that doesn't even tell you which ones are toxic, because sesame seed is a healthy oil. Peanuts are seeds technically, but they're just peanut oil, can be healthy. So the bad ones, I call them the hateful 8. The first thing you need to do is memorize these, okay? And it's even easier than 8, because there's really only 6 you're going to see on labels. The other 2 are in restaurants, and there's a different set of rules for dealing with how to avoid them in restaurants. So really just you have to memorize 6 of the hateful 8, the sinister 6. Let's call them that. Corn, canola, cottonseed. And if you live outside of the United States or Canada, canola doesn't exist. It's rapeseed instead. So the other 3 to memorize are soy, sunflower, safflower. Those are the things that are almost ubiquitous in all processed foods that, have any fat in them, and in many healthy foods. So how do they get into our food? Where do they come from? So it's not just people cooking with them at home. In fact, that's the least of the worry, because it's so easy to just swap out for a healthier oil, or fat, olive oil or avocado oil, or just plain old butter. Right? So that's easy. The hard part is all the processed foods we love and we depend on and we carry around for snacks to treat our hypoglycemia symptoms, our brain fog, and our hangry and all this. Right? They're in energy bars, they're in protein bars, they're in granola, they're in candy. Like any candy that has any fat in it, it's generally going to be one of the vegetable oils. Palm oil is actually okay. So candy that has palm oil is not totally toxic, but who could recommend candy? So don't eat candy. And then the sneaky things. So, it might not be, it might be obvious, but it might not. French fries, right? People think fast food is made with animal fat, but it's actually not. It's made with vegetable oils. So, but the worst of the worst are the deep fried stuff in the vegetable oils, but that also includes, people wouldn't think of this necessarily, but Ritz crackers, right? So they are cooked in batch cooked. They're baked, but it's like a batch of oil. So it's repeatedly used. The same with French fries and most chips, even veggie chips. They shouldn't be cooked with at all, period. And when they're batch cooked, the chemists try to protect them from oxidizing into toxins with antioxidants. So that helps a little bit. So when you compare what you're doing at home in a frying pan, like say you fry, chicken or something at home for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you're producing about as much toxicity as you are as the big industry is in their batch cookers. Because
No
they
way.
yes, way, because they take measures, they understand the chemistry of it all, so they reduce
Wow.
there's less, it's oxygen that causes a problem. Oxygen combines with these things, and basically in a combustible way, it's a very combustible combination, oxygen and the polyunsaturated fatty acids that are the fatty acids in vegetable oils. And so they reduce the oxygen surface area. They put like nitrogen blankets over deep fryers in some of these places. They do everything that they can to minimize the oxygen reacting with these things to generate toxicity. But we don't do any of that at home, and the mom and pop restaurants don't do any of that either.
Sure, yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so people are exposing themselves to toxins when they eat foods cooked in these oils. And that's probably like the half of it, okay? That's the half of it. There's another half that's equally bad that might blow your mind.
What is it?
They build up in our body fat and they change the chemistry of our body fat. So even if you don't eat any starting tomorrow, your body fat is still going to cause inflammation when your cells try to burn it. You're not going to reverse your metabolic disease starting tomorrow. That takes time.
Yeah, how do we go about that? So let's say hearing this information is enough to warrant us to make a change in looking for these oils out to eat and changing how we cook them at home. But the damage might be already done. What can we do now to help potentially expedite our body's healing and getting rid of these seed oils out of our body to help improve our overall health, metabolism, reduce inflammation even? And I know a lot of your work in the book is even talking about how this can really make us cancer proof.
To avoid the vegetable oils. Yeah, absolutely. So, and also improve your nutrition overall, right? So it's not just oils. I'm not saying they're the only thing out there.
Right.
But okay, so what is the first thing to do? The first thing to do is let go of the idea that metabolic health equals a normal weight. You are very normal looking weight to me.
Try to, yeah. Well, by
And
BMI standards, I've been overweight for many, many years. My body fat to muscle mass ratio, I run very high weight I'm 5'11", run about 185 to 190. So by BMI standards and a lot of other people, I'm quote overweight, but I would respectfully disagree.
right. So it's really got to be based on your body fat percentage, and vegetable oils can make it very difficult to maintain a lean body fat percentage unless, maybe someone like you who has that discipline and is able to exercise. A lot of people just can't for so many reasons. But yeah, so just because your body composition is normal and your body fat percentage is normal, that doesn't mean you're metabolically healthy either. If your body fat is composed of the wrong chemicals, that is what determines whether you're metabolically healthy in the way that matters or
So
not.
this could really be
More
a
than your
matter
weight.
of quantity might be in check in terms of body fat composition and the amount of body fat you have, but the quality of our body fat could still be doing us a disservice.
Absolutely. I don't know if you remember hearing this, but a couple of years ago, there was this argument that, no, there's such a thing as metabolically healthy obesity. Believe it or not, when I was in medical school, obesity was not a risk factor for type 2 diabetes the way it is today. Age was. When I was in medical school in the 90s, there was no increased mortality yet from obesity. Why?
Really? Wow.
Because the amount of vegetable oils in people's body fat that were susceptible to these deadly diseases in the 90s at age 50, 60, 70, there was almost none when they
weren't
were
saturated
born.
with that yet.
Yeah, when they were born. because that's where you really get set up, right? It's your whole life that affects you and your health. These poor children are born into a world where they do not have a shot at health, fair shot at health, because they're born into a world where their parents had vegetable oil in their body fat, and that's what their poor little baby metabolisms were having to deal with while they were gestating. And so that's why one of the researchers whose work I quote in Dark Calories says, we have a generation today who is born metabolically different. Something is happening in the environment. And because nobody's talking about vegetable oils or even sees them as unhealthy, this sort of research, these researchers are working in the dark. They don't know where to start looking for answers. So they look at the obvious stuff, right? Like the pesticides and the herbicides and not organic food and too much sugar and who knows. They have so many, it's a laundry list. But the most important thing to pay attention to is these vegetable oils, because you have had a relationship with them and you will continue to have them in your body for years. So in order to feel better tomorrow, it's not just a matter of avoiding vegetable oils. We have to embrace the very fats that we are told are unhealthy. And this gets us back to the lie that these oils were healthy, that people were sold starting in the 50s, 60s, and continuing to the 70s and 80s. And it's why I asked you if you remember ever hearing that these oils were healthy, because they used to be promoted as healthy. And have you heard them promoted as healthy in the past, maybe, I don't know, 5 years since the internet's been talking about them?
Only thing I hear now when it comes to seed oil is honestly pretty polarizing stuff. It is very much fire and brimstone. These are the worst things in the world for our health. And, that really hasn't gone away over the last few years. I know this is kind of at the core of your work as well, because it really does seem to be affecting way, way more than we ever thought, even at surface level of just, antioxidants, no good, poor metabolic health, no good. But now you're talking about impacting generations.
Yes.
That is some next level stuff.
Yes, and it's all stuff that is backed by science. I have over 400 references in there. I can't even count because we had to combine references into one footnote. So there might be like 700 or 800 references in Dark Calories. All of this is supported by science. It's just that the scientists that I have drawn from all work in different silos. They don't communicate with each other, and they're not invited to the table when doctors and dietitians are talking about what does a healthy diet look like. Doctors and dietitians don't even know this sort of science exists. And so Dark Calories, I put it all together to give you the complete story of what these oils have done to you personally, how you can recognize how they are affecting you today, which is those hypoglycemia symptoms. I have a worksheet in there so that you can learn all 11 of them and learn to track that, not your weight. Hypoglycemia is a reflection of your body's ability to generate energy. And since metabolism is all about energy, it's not about weight.
Yeah.
Tracking our energy makes more sense intuitively once you look at it that way than tracking our weight. And so I teach you how to track your energy in Dark Calories.
And Dr. Cate, in the last portion of Dark Calories, in the section on taking back our health, you talk about, like we talked about on this podcast so far, why and ways to really ditch these vegetable oils and seed oils for good. So elimination, awareness first and foremost, and then elimination for majority of the work to get them out of our current diet. And then some other foods, you talk about how we can eat to heal, other nourishing foods that can, for lack of a better term, undo some of the damage done, or really just give our body way more of a fighting chance to work this stuff out. But I'm curious, outside of nutrition, outside of changing the way that we eat in terms of we don't eat certain things anymore, we eat more of other certain things, what are things we can be doing maybe from a exercise or sleep or supplementation or just other things other than diet to help our bodies get rid of these seed oils and hopefully speed up the damage done?
Getting adequate sleep, absolutely essential. Burning your body fat, like exercise helps you burn your body fat, and that's the only way you're going to detoxify your body fat. You have to prepare your body so that it will burn that body fat. Otherwise, exercise is going to make you feel like garbage. So you have to prepare your body. So it does, even being able to exercise better for longer without so much inflammation afterwards comes back to diet, right? Because our diet is so bad. That's why, first and foremost, I'm talking about diet. I believe all exercise is good. The best type of exercise for you is the type of exercise you love the most, and you feel great just like emotionally afterwards. So yeah, exercise and sleep, and then interpersonal stress. Oh boy, that can make us feel that is a stress too. Now, here's one thing. Here's a concept that is really important to understand health in general, and you can take this to the bank with whoever else you talk about with health. The root cause of all illness is oxidative stress, and that is something that's so helpful to understand. Oxidative stress is a state of chemical imbalance, and lack of exercise causes oxidative stress. Cigarette smoking causes oxidative stress. Vegetable oils, oxidative stress in a bottle is really bad. They're really bad. Oxidative stress is the thing that causes accelerated aging. It is the root cause that I was looking for back when I was a medical student and did not find.
So you're saying that reducing and eliminating seed oils could also be a great contributing tool to longevity, or, anti-aging practices?
Yes. In fact, you can take a look at our life expectancy, and you'll see that as vegetable oils have become more prevalent in the food supply, our life expectancy has plummeted. It started dropping somewhere around the year 2000. So right now, our life expectancy, average life expectancy, is down by, depending who you ask, something like 6 years from where it was. Like children born today. And I think it's worse than that because nobody's taking this reality into account. But yes, it definitely helps with longevity. One of the chapters, chapter 2 of Dark Calories, I talk about the father of the longevity medicine and his discovery that oxidative stress was what killed people and accelerated age-related diseases. And so he spent the rest of his career looking for antioxidants and ways to control oxidative stress. But he didn't know about vegetable oil. He didn't know that it was promoting oxidative stress. So if you avoid the thing that's causing more oxidative stress than anything else in our modern lives, you're going to restore your longevity back to where it belongs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What about specifically, if anything comes to mind, or if you have any belief or in your research for this book and over your career have found definitely increase these foods because of blank, or definitely this supplement because of blank? Things come to mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we're talking about reducing or eliminating things from our diet that have inflammatory and oxidizing properties. I immediately go to things that are going to like cleanse and enhance digestion and antioxidants. I'm thinking milk thistle. I'm thinking dandelion root. I'm thinking promoting gut health. I'm thinking fermented foods. I'm thinking probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics. I'm thinking antioxidants, whether that's in form of a supplementation or, key fruits, dark berries, things like that. Are those really worthwhile? What are, if any, some key supplements or specific biochemical compounds that we should be focusing on to incorporate more into our diet to help with the seed oil?
So it's a long and detailed answer, and I do give you all that information in the book, but let me give you some high points here. So antioxidants, our body makes antioxidant enzymes from scratch, from like amino acids and proteins, from foods in our diet when we have a balanced diet. It also requires minerals to make these antioxidant enzymes, which are the most powerful form of of antioxidant protection in like the known universe. I'm talking about enzymes. Enzymes
Enzymes,
are
okay.
biological machines. I'm really glad you brought that up because I just threw out the term without defining it. Enzymes trap oxygen, dangerous types of oxygen called free radicals. And so these are enzymes, and our bodies make those enzymes from scratch. We can't eat them. If enzyme is just something made out of protein, our digestive system breaks it down and it is no longer a functioning enzyme. They are denatured when we cook our food. So our nature protects us from oxygen by endowing us with a huge arsenal of antioxidant enzymes systems. They're really enzyme systems because oxidation, controlling oxygen is a team effort. So we don't just need one type of antioxidant enzyme, we need many. And each one of those many enzymes requires minerals. Which ones? All of them. Okay, all of them. Like some require manganese, some require calcium, some require iron, some require magnesium, zinc, you name it. Like all of them. That's why they're called essential minerals.
Essential, yeah.
Yeah. So, and in addition, the enzymes require vitamins. Which ones? All of them. Right? That's why.
I'm sensing a pattern here. Yeah.
Yes, because controlling oxidation is essential to life itself. And I tell a short little story about how multicellular life began 2 billion years ago. Oxygen almost destroyed all life on Earth. So we've been battling oxygen as as earthlings, right? as a collective of living beings, plants, animals, fungi, all of us have been battling oxygen for 2 billion or more years. And it is the most important metabolic process, this fighting oxygen, because it enables us to generate energy, and it enables us to prevent free radicals and the inflammation and the destruction that they cause. So controlling oxygen's energy is the key to health and life.
Good. What is one thing maybe that we haven't discussed yet? What is one thing that you would implore the audience member to at least strongly consider when it comes to the awareness and change necessary around our healthy habits, the way that we eat, the way that we live our life around seed oils, and really drive home the why?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we haven't talked about something that's very important in order to be able to actually do this off and have any kind of relationship with a doctor. We have to get used to the idea that high cholesterol in our blood is a good thing. Because, yeah, I know that sounds almost insane.
I'm team cholesterol over here. I'm with you. So please explain. It's great having an MD say this on the show.
Yeah. So cholesterol is a nutrient, and it was falsely vilified by people who were accepting money from the vegetable oil industry back in the 1950s. The doctors involved to witness this, who could have said this is all a lie, who tried to say and did say this is all a lie, but were continually ignored, they're now dead. So we have to know about this history, and I tell the story of how this happened in the middle of the book, which is the book about I call it the noise machine. Like, why haven't we heard this before? Because the truth is being drowned out by people selling you stuff and making money off of the fact that you are sick.
I'm so glad that you kind of brought that to light. And I think that is probably one of the most difficult things we as a healthcare recipient, as a consumer, could ever come across, that we might not think we will have to. And it is all well and good for us to become more educated and empowered and become more aware of what we can do for our own health and what we can do to improve or maintain health in our life. but there is inevitably there's going to come a day when you need that acute care, and or you go to a doctor, you go to a medical professional because of something you're curious about or are dealing with. And more likely than not, unless of course maybe you're going to Dr. Cate here, you're gonna come up against some friction. You're gonna come up against people that are either, for lack of a better term, ignorant and just not trained in their medical profession for these things, or like we see with a lot of other cases, have other agendas. And those other agendas are supported by things like the pharmaceutical industry, are supported by other brands and other biases. So it's really, I think, a very good disclaimer that you just made, and is another part of that awareness, another part of the due diligence necessary beyond just becoming more aware of what I'm looking at with my nutrition facts and food labels and what I'm cooking, what I'm choosing to eating out, but also really looking at the history and looking at how did we even get here? Why do I need to concern myself with thinking about my doctor and how food is grown and how it's formulated and how it's, put together in a factory? There are a lot of other connecting dots to our health care that go beyond just what we choose to put into our body or not. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And the culture of healthcare is not about root causes. And so that's really important, because it means that when you go to the doctor for a physical, right, just for an annual physical, you're trying to be proactive, you're trying to catch things early. You're not going to do that. You're going to be told you have, if you have hypertension, you're going to be told that you have hypertension, or you're going to be told that you have high cholesterol. And this is where things get really sinister. And yes, again, I'm going to say it again, dark. Why I call it dark calories, because doctors will tell you that a normal healthy cholesterol level is going to give you a heart attack, and that's simply not true. And it's not that they aren't up to date on their education. That is the narrative that was created falsely by the people with those conflicts of interest that I mentioned, and that I tell you the whole story in dark calories there. And it's such an important part of history to understand and fully take in, because it means that cutting edge medicine at places like Harvard or Stanford or the Cleveland Clinic, the most prestigious institutions, you go and you get the most expensive executive physical, because doctors think a normal amount of cholesterol is going to give you a heart attack, and they are wrong. They will tell you to take cholesterol medications, which are dangerous. And I explain all this in the books. I'm not just throwing out these conclusions based on no science.
Oh yeah, long-term statins can be, for most people, very detrimental to long-term health.
Yes, they do nothing for good. They do nothing good, right? Except for a very small subset of people who've already had heart attacks, who smoke and won't quit smoking. They seem to really, prevent heart attacks in that tiny subset of people. Everyone else, they're only doing bad things. But I'm making this point to realize that, you can be the most proactive person, but if you don't understand who is educating your doctor, the best doctors out there are being educated by a combination of the vegetable oil industry, which is to say the processed food industry, and the drug companies, who now can sell us statins and all these other medications to control symptoms caused by oxidative stress, which we wouldn't have if we stopped eating vegetable oils and tuned up our diets.
Well, Dr. Cate, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for shining a light on such a dark area of healthcare, but also just daily living. I mean, we all have to eat, and we all should, I believe, if nothing else, bring more attention to what we choose to put into our body, because that is going to either make or break how we feel, our body composition, our body's ability to fight off virus, disease, lower or increase our chance for chronic illness. I mean, so many things come down to quality and quantity of what we choose to stuff this pile with, right? I'll have all of this linked for everybody down in the show notes in the video description. But my final question for you is, I was sharing with you earlier, my goal with this show and every guest is to bring people on, help shine a light of a unique area of our total well-being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that we can really sit back and think about and maybe even take action on to help us move forward in life and keep moving forward, ever forward. Those two words, what do they mean to you? How do you live a life ever forward?
Well, for me, it's been like fulfilling this lifelong dream of mine, which was why I went to medical school, to understand root causes, right? Fulfilling your dreams, knowing what those dreams are, doesn't always come easy. Because, in a lot of our lives, we have expectations, we have obligations. We don't even get in touch with our real, like, goals for ourselves and what our dreams are. So, like, for me, I'm always asking, is this something that I actually enjoy? Do I still enjoy this? This is really what I want to be doing. That's how I keep moving ever forward.
Powerful answer. Thank you. There's never a right or a wrong answer. I always appreciate my guest interpretation. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. It's been a really fun conversation, I think.